They know the other side's never going to agree to give them primary custody. And they don't want to waste time and money and energy in a litigation. That's not good for the kids. Divorce litigation, the kids are involved too. So what they do is say, well, I want to go visit my aunt maybe in Italy or wherever they are. And instead of going for a week visit, they just stay and they don't come back. What is that? Is that kidnapping? Is that abandoning? Is that absconding? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, if the other side didn't agree to this, you're going to wind up in court. So short term feels good. Long term may make things worse. And maybe if you get a certain type of judge, they may consider that to be some type of gatekeeping where you're restricting the time away from the other parent. And that may be held against you. And you might even potentially lose your child because you did something that was unilateral. That's the stakes we're dealing with here. Welcome back to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. I am Corey Shapiro. My goal of this podcast is to come to you before things go crazy in your divorce. I usually see people as a divorce attorney after things hit the fan. I want to come to you well before that. I want to help you save your time, your money, your energy, your emotion. That's what I'm selling today. I'm selling you your freedom from a divorce nightmare. And the goal of this episode is to talk about meltdown moments. Those are those moments where we are flooded, which is step one, but then we act on it. That's the meltdown moment. Okay, so my definition for a meltdown moment is not just activated when we are emotional, when we're stressed, which is a total human experience, but then we do something more. We act on it. And when we act on it using limited capacity, not thought through, not based on our vision, not our architect side, which is that long-range planning side, it may really make things more difficult. It's sort of like, I don't know, maybe, well, I always wanted a dog, but you go to like these pet shops that they don't have anymore in New York City, and like they're $2,000 or $2,500, and you buy a $2,500 pet because it's so easy, as opposed to maybe going to a breeder. It's doing something emotional like that, but worse consequences unless you're not a dog owner and don't like dogs. So I want to just give you a couple of examples of, what I see from meltdown moments. And it usually divorce is two things we're fighting about. There's two things. It's children and money. That's it. That's all we're talking about. So let's talk about what I see with children. When you're having a meltdown moment, I've seen this. The marriage is dead. That's a given. And it's been toxic for a while, right? And there's young children. And there's usually a primary parent. And then that primary parent has given some thought of how to get out of this marriage. But they don't want to do things the hard way, which is, having a custody battle, because they know the other side's going to be difficult. They know the other side's never going to agree to give them primary custody. And they don't want to waste time and money and energy in a litigation. That's not good for the kids. Divorce litigation, the kids are involved too. So what they do is say, well, I want to go visit my aunt maybe in Italy or wherever they are. And instead of going for a week visit, they just stay and they don't come back. What is that? Is that kidnapping? Is that abandoning? Is that absconding? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, if the other side didn't agree to this, you're going to wind up in court. So short term feels good. Long term may make things worse. And maybe if you get a certain type of judge, they may consider that to be some type of gatekeeping where you're restricting the time away from the other parent. And that may be held against you. And you might even potentially lose your child because you did something that was unilateral. That's the stakes we're dealing with here. All right. On the money side, in a divorce, you have to disclose, or you have to is the right word, but some people take that as a suggestion, not a shall. And you're supposed to disclose all of your assets, all of your income, all your debt. It's supposed to be transparency. But some people don't do that. And they may, months before or even years before the divorce, say, I have to share all this stuff. I've been in a long marriage. Why don't I just divest myself with these assets? And they give some of their property to their family members, to their different corporations, and you can't figure it all out without hiring, some type of forensic examiner to go in it and figure out what's really going on. And that's what I see on the financial side. They just make things murky. I saw one case where even in the beginning of the marriage, where things were supposed to be good, they required the deed to the property be not only spouse, it was husband, wife, but it was husband, their family member, and the spouse. And the spouse felt so, scared, disempowered, didn't want to rock the boat. Just started the marriage, didn't really understand what it all meant. Let that go. So that asset wasn't really only owned by the spouses. It was owned by the spouse and this additional family member. What happens 15 years later? Is that a 50-50 of the home? No. You only own 66% of it because there's a third that's owned by a non-party, is what the court would say, a non-party. All right, so what's my core message here? It's okay to be activated. That's a human experience. That's where you take your 24 seconds, 24 minutes, 24 hours, calm down. Don't act from that side. Sometimes it takes 24 days. And when you're in that period, you're not just trying to rile yourself up. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get back to our smarter side. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. And that's hard. That's why we have to take some time. All right, so my power phrase for you today, or this week, is you don't have to act on this feeling. You don't have to act on this feeling. If you could just remember that mantra, you don't have to act on this feeling where you're having these divorce meltdowns before you take those kids and do this crazy plan, maybe talk to someone who has some insight in how things really work. And that might save you a lot of time, stress, energy, emotion, and really move you on to your divorce vision. Because the alternative might be years and a lot of money in litigation. All right. I believe you can do this. I believe you can get to your wiser side. I believe you can become that architect you need to be. Not going to maybe be able to do it today, but you can do it. And I'm going to be here each week helping you. I'm Corey Shapiro. Thanks for listening.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.